Right now, in this exact moment, your brain is somewhere else entirely. Not distracted, not tired, somewhere else, on purpose by design. You're reading this or watching this, but a part of your mind is already in tomorrow's meeting or last Tuesday's argument. Scientists have a name for it, mind wandering, and it happens during nearly half of your waking hours. Nearly half. Not when you're bored all the time, while eating, walking, talking, even mid-conversation. The obvious explanation is distraction. Modern life, notifications, too much noise. But that explanation is wrong. Your brain was doing this long before smartphones existed, long before cities, agriculture, or written language. The real reason your mind refuses to stay in the present moment is far stranger and far older than you think. And once you understand it, the present moment itself will never feel the same again. Here is the question nobody asks. Why would evolution produce a brain that constantly escapes the present? Every second your mind is elsewhere is a second you're not watching for threats, not gathering food, not caring for your children. By any survival logic, a mind that wanders should have been eliminated hundreds of thousands of years ago. Think of the last time your mind truly left the room you were sitting in. Where did it go? And did it go there on its own? It almost certainly went to one of three places: the past, the future, or a version of events that never happened at all. Not random noise. Three specific destinations. That pattern is not accidental. Your mind is running a program, and that program was written by pressures your ancestors faced across 2 million years of survival. The question is, what is the program actually doing, and why can it never stop? To answer that, you have to go back. Not to last century, not to ancient Greece. Much, much further. Picture a flat, open savanna roughly 1.8 million years ago. A small band of early humans, 15 or 20 individuals, moving at dusk. They have no shelter yet. The fire they need to start is still minutes away. Something large moved in the grass an hour ago, and nobody has seen it since. The individual who survives this moment is not the one staring hardest at the grass right now. It's the one whose mind is already 2 steps ahead. Where will the predator come from? Where's the water hole that dried up? Which member of the group is weakest, most likely to draw attention? Staying in the present, purely in the present, meant reacting. And reaction was often too late. The brain that could simulate, that could mentally run futures, rehearse dangers, replay failures, was the brain that stayed alive. Neuroscientist Dr. Buckner at Harvard identified the brain network that does this. He called it the default mode network. The default mode network, the DMN, is not a malfunction. It is the most metabolically expensive network in your entire brain. Your brain burns more energy running the DMN than it does solving a math problem or reading a difficult sentence. Evolution does not waste that kind of energy on accidents. Whatever the DMN is doing, it was worth every calorie. And here is what it is doing. It is simulating, constantly, automatically below the threshold of your awareness. Simulating the future to pre-solve problems. Simulating the past to extract lessons. Simulating other people's minds to predict their behavior. 3 simulations. 3 destinations. The exact same 3 places your mind goes every time it leaves the room. Your mind wandering is not a bug. It is the most sophisticated survival software ever evolved. But there is a cost, and the cost has never been higher than it is right now, in the world you're living in today. Psychologist Dr. Killingsworth at Harvard ran a study using a smartphone app that pinged people at random moments throughout the day. At each ping, participants answered 3 questions. What are you doing? Is your mind on what you're doing? How do you feel right now? Over 250,000 data points across 83 countries from people of every demographic, age, and occupation. The result was striking. A wandering mind was a less happy mind. regardless of what the person was doing when the mind wandered. Not sometimes. Consistently. The activity mattered far less than whether the mind was present during it. A person commuting, mind present, reported more happiness than a person on vacation, mind elsewhere. The survival program that kept your ancestors alive is making you miserable, and it cannot stop because it was never designed to. But here is where it gets more complicated and more interesting. Not all mind wandering is the same. Neuroscientist Dr. Smallwood at York University has spent years mapping exactly what the DMN does when the mind leaves the present. He found that mind wandering splits into two distinct modes: deliberate and spontaneous. Spontaneous wandering, the kind that hijacks your attention without permission, is almost always directed toward unresolved social threats. Who is angry with you? Who said something that didn't make sense? Who failed to respond? Who might betray you? Your brain is not lazily daydreaming. It is running threat assessments on your social world, on a loop, without your permission. Because for your ancestors, social threats were survival threats. Exile from the group meant death within days. Your brain cannot distinguish between the tribe might reject me and I might get a passive-aggressive email. It responds to both with the same ancient alarm. And so your mind leaves the present every time to go check on the social perimeter, to make sure you are still safe, still accepted, still inside the group. Deliberate mind wandering, by contrast, is something else entirely. When you consciously drift while walking, showering, staring out a window, something remarkable happens. The DMN and the brain's executive planning network activate together, a combination that almost never occurs during focused attention. This is the neural signature of insight, of creative connection, of the answer that arrives the moment you stop forcing it. The shower thought, the sudden solution on a morning walk, the idea that comes when you stop trying. These are not accidents of distraction. They are the DMN doing what it was built to do, finding patterns across time, across memories, across possibilities below conscious awareness. Your ancestors who solved problems in their heads, before acting, before committing, before risking, survived longer, planned better, led more effectively. The same brain network that tortures you with social anxiety on a Tuesday afternoon also generates your most original ideas. It is the same system. You cannot have one without the other. And that is not the uncomfortable part. The uncomfortable part is what happens to this ancient system when you drop it into the world that exists today. Consider what your brain's threat simulation system was designed to manage. A social group of roughly 150 people, known personally across a stable landscape. It was designed to track 150 relationships, to read 150 faces, to model 150 minds. Now place that system inside a world where you are exposed to thousands of social signals per day, on a screen that never turns off. Every notification is a social ping. Every scroll is a status comparison. Every unanswered message is a potential threat to group belonging. And your brain cannot filter any of it. It was not built to filter. It was built to respond to all of it, as though survival depended on every single signal. Because once it did, and evolution has not had nearly enough time to catch up. Anthropologist Dr. Dunbar at Oxford calculated that the cognitive load required to track 150 relationships already occupied most of your ancestors' available mental bandwidth. The modern social world is asking the same hardware to manage thousands of relationships, with no additional processing power and no rest. The result is a threat simulation system running on permanent overdrive, scanning, rescanning, never satisfied, never certain the perimeter is safe. This is why your mind leaves the present most aggressively at night, in the quiet, when external input stops. No distractions, no tasks, no noise, and suddenly the social simulation runs at full power, uninterrupted, replaying every ambiguous interaction from the past 72 hours. Not because something is wrong with you, because the system is working exactly as designed, in a world it was never designed for. And here is the twist that changes everything. Mindfulness, the deliberate practice of returning attention to the present moment, is not a solution to a modern problem. It is an ancient counter-technology, developed independently across at least a dozen separate human civilizations, each with no contact with the others. Buddhist monks in Southeast Asia, Stoic philosophers in Rome, indigenous meditation practices across the Americas and Africa, all of them arrived at the same solution. Not because they understood neuroscience, because they understood the problem experientially. The mind left the present. It caused suffering. Something had to be done. Dr. Tang at Texas Tech studied what happens inside the brain when someone undergoes mindfulness training for just 2 weeks. The default mode network does not shut down. It does not get quieter. Something more interesting happens. The connection between the DMN and the brain's self-monitoring network, the anterior cingulate cortex, strengthens measurably. In plain terms, the brain does not stop wandering. It gets better at noticing that it has wandered and returning without distress, without friction. The goal is not presence. The goal is the moment of return. That moment, the act of noticing and coming back, is the entire practice. And here is why that matters in a way nobody tells you. Every time the brain returns from wandering, it is doing something that took evolution millions of years to produce. It is overriding an ancient survival program, voluntarily, consciously, deliberately, with nothing but attention itself. Think about what this means for the way you live right now. Every time your mind leaves a conversation to rehearse what you should have said 2 days ago, that is your survival system running a social threat simulation. Every time a solution to a problem arrives in the shower, that is the deliberate wandering mode, connecting data across memories your conscious mind had already given up on. Every time you feel vaguely anxious on a perfectly fine Sunday afternoon for no identifiable reason, that is a threat detection system scanning a social perimeter that doesn't exist in the way it once did. The discomfort you feel when you try to meditate, that restless pull toward anything other than stillness, is not weakness. Is 2 million years of survival programming pushing back. Your brain was built by a world where stillness meant danger, where a quiet mind was a vulnerable mind. Every time you sit down to focus and find your attention already 3 conversations ahead, your ancient ancestors would have called that readiness. The problem is not that your brain wanders. The problem is that the world it was built to wander through no longer exists. The threats it simulates are mostly social shadows, real enough to feel, too diffuse to resolve, never fully gone because the perimeter the brain is checking now has no edge. This does not mean the present moment is inaccessible. It means accessing it requires something your ancestors never needed, deliberate effort, applied against your own design. Right now, in this exact moment, your brain is somewhere else entirely. But now you know what it is doing there. It is not lost. It is not broken. It is working harder than you will ever consciously notice to keep you safe in a world that no longer exists. The present moment is not where your brain lives. It is where your brain returns, briefly, imperfectly, and with great effort, when you ask it to. And that return, that small, deliberate act of coming back, may be the most uniquely human thing you ever do.